Hello, this is Justice Spectrum, and welcome back to another video. Columbus Day, that time of year where everybody likes to hate on America for reasons, for us not being perfect, or how we treated the Indians, or what have you. Essentially, things that they have no first-hand experience in, or any reason to know better than the people who made those decisions hundreds of years ago. So obviously, the Indian removals have always been controversial. But I'm going to sort of explain why I think they were just in a way. They were kind of justified, you know? First of all, it's not as if we started anything. The colonists, pilgrims, whatever, what have you, the settlers didn't come in guns blazing. They came in, settled on the coasts, tried to live. They didn't come to freaking fight the Indians. In a lot of cases, we got along quite well with the Indians where we settled. Being on the Indians in the area, we didn't. Again, this is another thing these people misunderstand, and something we misunderstood back in the day. There's a lot of different tribes of Indians. And they were always going to war with each other. That was what they did. It's almost as if you settle in a big city that's run by two rival gangs and get caught in the crossfire. They're not doing anything new. You just weren't down for it. You're not doing anything wrong by moving in there, but now you're stuck with it. There are exceptions, of course. Probably the most famous Indian removal is the Trail of Tears, moving the Cherokee, I believe, out of the state of Georgia. The Cherokee were nonviolent, and essentially the state of Georgia wanted them gone because I believe they found gold or something on the reservation that the Cherokee owned, and they wanted the rights to that land. The Cherokee sued and said no. They actually sued successfully in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled in their favor, said no, these guys, the Cherokee, have the right to that land, and the state of Georgia has to abide by that. Well, President Andrew Jackson, at the time, did not... He was a famous Indian fighter. That's where he came from. And that influenced his decision not to enforce the Supreme Court's decision. And the state of Georgia ended up forcing them off that land. That's probably the worst case in U.S. history of Indian removals. similar, uh, somewhat similar, would be what happened with the Tonkawas and other friendly nations in Texas. So the Tonkawas were friendly, but most of the other nations were not friendly. And as best I can tell from the data available to me, the other nations, of course, they were still not friendly with us, and they framed a bunch of raids on the Tonkawas, framed the Tonkawas for a bunch of raids that they conducted, and with enough outcry from the people, the state of Texas ended up forcing all the people in the reservation up into Oklahoma. Now, just for some context, the reason that the Tonkawas were friendly and everyone else was not was that every other tribe hated the Tonkawas because they were cannibals. So, were our friends really well, I'll just put that out there and not really say anything about it. But to move on from that, another reason I think that the Indian removals were kind of justified is you have a clash of different lifestyles here. The Indians, by and large, did not really understand the concept of private property. They were nomadic for the most part. They moved around. They didn't because of their lifestyle, they couldn't survive if they settled down in one place. Many tribes of Indians survived by following buffalo herds, and you can't do that if you are living in one place and have private property. I think it's undeniable that settling down and having private property is a superior way of life than being nomadic. This isn't a I guess racist idea. Even Indians did the same thing. If they were available, if they were able to survive by staying in one place, they would. Mayans and Incas and various tribes along the coasts all lived in permanent shelters. That's really part of why we got along so well with some of the tribes where we originally settled. But lastly, I want to move on to what I think is the final point, the final reason why I think that the Indian removals were justified in the long run, and that is the change had to come. It was always going to be painful, but it had to come. And I think if you want to live in that way, if you want to live chasing the buffalo or doing whatever. There is no better way to do it, no better place to do it than in America. The Cowboys had a similar problem back in the late 1800s with the advent of barbed wire fence and sheep farmers especially. The Cowboys lived in some ways quite like the Indians did. They didn't settle down in one place. They chased cattle and on the free range. The existence of large farms and barbed wire fences threatened that. There are no cowboys anymore. There are no cattle drives anymore. That's not something that happens anymore. Because all that land is owned by large ranches, and it's all fenced in with barbed wire fences. But if you want to live like that, if you want to live chasing cattle, there's no better way to do it than to buy a big plot of land, buy your horses, your cattle, fund that vision by working and getting that money in the outside world, and then live how you want to. That is essentially what the reservations provide in sort of a microcosmic sense. I still think if that's what you want to do, if you want to live in a teepee and chase buffalo, your best shot is to get off the reservation, buy a few thousand acres, and just do it. And there's no better place, no better system for chasing that dream than what America provides. Anyways, you may disagree with everything I've said. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I don't think it's advisable for us to judge people hundreds of years ago in vastly different circumstances from the comfort of your 21st century air-conditioned home and your plush sofa. You've never had a hard day in your life, and you're going to judge the actions of someone who may have just had their entire family raped and murdered by Comanches or what have you. I don't think you have a place to judge those people. Maybe they made the wrong decision, but I would not be surprised if you would have made a worse decision or the same decision. That is a very self-righteous assumption to make. So, with that all being said, I hope you all have a happy Columbus Day, and don't jump to conclusions about things that you have no place to know. Anyways, that's it, and I'll see you later. Bye.